Gambia's National Assembly endorses the creation of a Senegambian Parliamentary Friendship Group. An engineer uses waste plastic bottles to build houses to mitigate housing crisis in Nigeria. And the Gambia Police Force has calls for calm after a violent protest in Sanyang. Well, these and more coming your way on News Desk. Hello, this is Africa TV and many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail, and we begin with matters of the National Assembly because parliamentarians on Monday debated on the adoption of the bill to pave a parliamentarian friendship between Senegal and the Gambia. The bill tabled by the majority leader of the House seeks to twin the two Senegambian lawmaking bodies on people-to-people and economic interactions. Mariama Cham has more details of that in this report.
Debating on the Parliamentary Friendship Bill, Halifa Saleh Namfa Sadakunda advised that the relationship between the two countries should pave way for the exchange of knowledge and experiences. The partnership in his submission should be based on development and harmony, noting that the Gambia National Assembly has built competency which is worth sharing with others.
We would want a relationship where parliaments will be able to meet and harmonize legislation, oversight methodologies, so many activities that are taking place so that we mutually learn from each other. This parliament is developing a lot of capacity, and I'm sure other parliaments will be able to also learn from exactly what we are doing.
Namfo Willie West Webu Ture observed that mutual relations of the two West African states should consolidate the existing ties between their people.
Honorable Speaker, the initiative will certainly be the catalyst to build and sustain the people-to-people contacts, which will definitely go a long way to building cooperation and understanding among our people. Let me inform you that the Woodley East has already initiated this contact between the people of Senegal and the Gambia to ensure that they help each other in securing their properties and themselves and ensuring this easy access of goods and services across the border.
The association of Woolly East with her neighbors in Senegal is justified in local groupings where members discuss issues of mutual benefits including trade. Mohamed Mahanera of Sandu shared the view that the Senegal-Gambia relations are expected to go beyond social and cultural events to include economic and political aspects of development.
And unless there is a serious political will, put in place whereby two countries will observe and abide by, this issue of economic re-export trades will not really benefit our country. So these are things that we can really deliberate on, and made our counterpart country know that as people living together, it is our collective responsibility to make sure that the culture we share peacefully, the regions we share peacefully. We should also behave in that way when it comes in terms of economic benefits, when it comes in terms of political benefits.
Former relationship between Senegal and Gambia became a necessity after the British and French drew artificial borderlines to divide the West African empire in the name of colonialism. Despite this historical division, the two sisters signed the Senegambia Confederation in 1982 to promote cooperation between them. This merger could not, however, continue beyond 1989 due to growing concerns over individual autonomy. The two families have existing bilateral agreements in the areas of fisheries and aquaculture, trade and cross-border electricity, among others. Reporting for iAfrica News, this is Mariama Cham.
Gambia's National Assembly seeks to improve ties with their counterparts from Senegal. Now, Somalia has on Monday received a consignment of 300,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine from the COVAX initiative. This is the latest supply of the vaccine to an African country since several European nations suspended its use due to the blood clotting it caused in those that took it. The CISE tells us more of that in this report.
The vaccination in Somalia, like in many African countries, will target the frontline workers, the elderly, and those with chronic health conditions in order to reduce deaths and infections as recommended by COVID-19 task force. Many European countries, including Denmark and Italy, suspended the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine after a number of people were reported to have developed clots after receiving the vaccine. Somalia's Minister of Health, Dr. Fausia Abikat, says the vaccine is effective and will reach out to the targeted groups.
After tireless efforts, we have managed to receive the first batch of the vaccine, and we are expecting to receive more. I would like to thank all the UN families for the tremendous work with the Federal Ministry of Health and the Federal Member State Ministries of Health.
The United Nations Secretary General Special Representative for Somalia, James Swan, acknowledges the authorities in Somalia for their efforts to contain the spread of the virus. Swan says mobilizers will be deployed to communities to encourage the use of the vaccine. He also advises people to continue observing COVID-19 guidelines.
We encourage people to take the vaccine. We encourage people to continue with all possible preventive measures: hand washing, mask wearing, social distancing. COVID is still a serious threat. We need to stay vigilant. The vaccine will help, but it is not the only solution.
The first consignment of the vaccine has arrived at a time when Somalia has recorded 9,190 COVID-19 confirmed cases with 367 deaths, according to Johns Hopkins University. The country is expected to receive a total of 1.2 million doses from the COVAX facility to vaccinate at least 20% of its population. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
Somalia is the latest African country to receive the AstraZeneca's vaccines, despite some European countries suspended its use. Now, the Sanyang police station was set ablaze together with a Chinese fish factory by youths of the community following the killing of one Jibril Sise by a foreign national said to be working at the Sanyang fish mill factory. The incident sparked chaos between the villagers and police on Monday. Our reporter, Binti Jallo, was at the scene and she filed in this report.
The incident occurred as a result of discontent of the youth of the Combo South village over the killing of a native. The Chinese fish factory has been a subject of anger among villagers alleged its activities as pollutants on the environment. The 30-year-old victim, Jibril Sise, is a native of Sanyang who named his first child 1 month ago. Police has since arrested the alleged murderer, who was whisked to the Birkama police station. Protesters came out in large numbers to show their dismay with the police for allegedly protecting a killer. Sise's death sparked outrage in Sanyang that saw youth burning down the police station as well as fish mill factory where the alleged killer had been working. We managed to gauge the views of protesters, and this is what some of them had to say.
And our sadness and what these people, the Senegalese, the foreign people have did to a youth man in our village, we can give that report to them. You can understand? That's very wrong, and this is not right. It's not wrong, it's not right. There is something that is happening. A youth man born in this village, and he was murdered by a Senegalese, and that's really, really very wrong. And what we are also doing, we have to be very careful on that. So we take a peace maintain, and we wait for these higher ranked people. When they come, we sit with them and discuss with them. Thank you.
A Senegalese went to his house to steal and stab him to death. Now, we as youths of this village see this as a revolution to stop this from happening again, with or without the government stepping in. A Senegalese went to his house to steal and stab him to death. Now, we as youths of this village see this as a revolution to stop this from happening again, with or without the government stepping in.
We also engaged the police to know how the situation was being handled. ASP Lamin Jai, the police public relations officer, said the police responded swiftly following reports of the incident in Sanyang.
Very well. I want to tell people, especially the people of Sanyang, to exercise restraint and calm, and also be patient enough to allow the law to take its course. Now, you understand that when crime occurs, it is the duty of the Gambia Police Force to ensure that perpetrators of crime are apprehended and the due process of the law is followed to ensure that the justice that the victims deserve is delivered. Far, we were able to reinforce the police station there. We did some evacuation first, and then we are able to reinforce the police at the Sanyang village so that they were able to contain and control the situation from further escalating. And after that, we were able to maintain security presence there to ensure that no further demonstration or protests occurred. And so since yesterday, our officers have been there, and up to now, we're still moving on with the after operation activities to ensure that we continue maintaining peace and stability in Sanyang so that normal business and people can go about with their normal business and calm is restored in Sanyang.
The chaos from the killing of Jibril Cisse caused injuries for dozens of protesters as police fired tear gas to repel the crisis. The army was deployed on Monday evening to provide a security backup for the police intervention unit. iAfrica is currently verifying reports of substances of suspected cocaine and cannabis found at the crime scene within the fish meal factory. Reporting for iAfrica News, Binti Yalo.
All right, and now joining me on the line to discuss more on this development is Sanyang Jai, an economist and also a social activist. Well, Mr. Jai, thank you very much for joining us. First, I ask you, what did you make of the incident that happened yesterday in Sanyang?
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to the viewers. You see, a country needs what you call an equitable social contract. An equitable social contract makes sure that each and every citizenry in the country has due protection under the law, has equal opportunities to economic access to equal opportunities in terms of, opportunities economically, and also social upward mobility. So what we see in Sanyang is the same that we are seeing in Katong, Gunjur, and other coastal towns. The government need to step up and fix the anomaly that is there. What is the anomaly? The anomaly is you have a youthful population without jobs. You have a youthful population that are ill-equipped with skills and education. And to date, the government is not gauging the temperature of the country. And yesterday is a classic example that peace is just not the absence of war. Because we are not fighting each other doesn't mean that we're at peace with ourselves. And what we saw yesterday by kids, openly demonstrating their anger, their disgust, shows that the establishment need to listen, shows that the establishment need to engage, and it finally shows that the establishment need to find a way to deal with the problems of the youthful population who form a bulk of this society.
All right, yes, Mr. Njai, you mentioned about government's responsibility here. Now, do you think what we witnessed yesterday could have been avoided if what is right was done by the authorities?
What is right is to make sure development is inclusive. And the fish meal factories along our southern coast or South Gambia is a problem for the communities, whether it's in Gunjur, Katong, or Sanyang. People have been talking for the longest, trying to find a solution. But it seems and it looks like government believes they are doing the right thing. Well, if you believe you're doing the right thing and your citizenry are telling you that what you are doing is not what we want, I think you need to go back to the drawing board. And the government must be humble enough to say that we don't know everything and we don't have answers to everything. And the best way to get answers is to get feedback from the very people we attempt to serve.
All right. I wouldn't want to say who should be blamed, but who do you think is responsible, again, of what happened yesterday in Sanyang? You talked about what the young people or the people in Sanyang has been talking about the fish meal in their village or town for quite a while now.
You see, it's a collective failure of the system. You cannot point at one place. I will start with the dearly departed Mr. Cisse that was stabbed in his own house. May his soul rest in peace. Security is the responsibility of the state. Public safety is the responsibility of the state. If there was adequate security in and around the vicinity, I don't think a thief would have come all the way to his house. So that in itself is a failure because it's a responsibility dawned on the state. It's a public good. The public good means the state should ensure the security of each and every citizen and whoever wakes up in this country, including lives and properties. So that's a failure in itself. But the bigger failure is the environmental disregard caused by these fish meal factories, and that lies squarely on the Ministry of Fisheries. But ultimately, there is one Gambian who is responsible for all of this, which is the chief executive. He has ministers, and if they're not doing the job that he expects them to do, he can fire them. When things are not going well, he can go back to the drawing board and redraw a plan that will not only be sustainable, but be successful in making sure Gambia is a better place. So it's a total failure of the system, and the system must be bold enough to say, we need to put the brakes and talk to the people, listen to them, and collectively we come together and solve the problem as a nation.
All right. Just lastly, Mr. Njai, again, I would ask finally, what do you think, of course, we as a country or the authorities should learn from this or what we witnessed again in Sanyang yesterday?
You see, I feel sorry for this government because not that they have inherited a mess. We already know that they've inherited a mess, but they have a youthful population without opportunities. And then that in itself is a ticking time bomb. Therefore, if you happen to have a ticking time bomb, it's the responsibility of the state to see how sensitive they can come and at least give people a relief. Unemployment is high in Gambia. Drug abuse is high in the Gambia. Truancy, kids going to school and not being in school, is high in the Gambia. I think if I were in the shoes of the government, particularly the president, my focus will not be out politicking, talking about roads and other things, but making sure that the biggest cluster of my population, the youth, happens to have good, viable, socio-economic opportunities. If not, he will end up being their problem. And he doesn't want that. And we, the Gambians, don't want that because we want prosperity. And the only way we can get prosperity is to have inclusive growth, including the youth of this population growing with the economy.
All right. I'm afraid we're going to leave it at that. Nyanjai, thank you very much for your time, and it was good to have you on the line.
Thank you so much.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. That was Nyanjai, an economist and social activist, also sharing his thoughts on the protest or the violent protest that happened yesterday in Sanyang. Now, next to Egypt, where the coronavirus vaccine rollout is gaining momentum in the country, as many Egyptians, including the elderly, are keen to receive the jab. Now, authorities expect more vaccines. Citizens are getting online to register for the immunization in the North African country. Now, people with underlying health conditions and the elderly are prioritized according to health authorities. Here are more details of that in this report.
Ashraf Morsi is opening the Egyptian Health Ministry's COVID-19 vaccine website. He's been living with diabetes for 5 years. That makes the 54-year-old eligible to get vaccinated. With a salary of around $300 a month and a family of 5 to take care of, offering the jab for free encouraged him to apply.
I have to protect my family members and friends. I cannot afford to stay at home. At work, I interact with so many people. The vaccine is a good protection for me. Some of my friends and colleagues at work got infected. I felt it's easy to get the disease. I want to be safe. It's also great from the government to pay for the vaccine. It's helping us because many people cannot afford to pay for the vaccine. Many people won't be able to take it otherwise.
Ashraf now has to wait for a confirmation SMS from the health ministry with his vaccination date. With only a few thousands getting the jab every day, he might wait a while before his turn comes. Mrs. Madiha Saleh and her spouse, on the other hand, were very lucky. They got their confirmation messages. Excited to get the jab, her husband Samir Allam took her a day earlier for a 45-minute drive from their home to this vaccination center to make sure they have the right place and that their names are on the list.
By the way, I came today to be sure about the place and to be in time, very punctual, to be in time to have this vaccine. That's why I came this morning to have to know where it is the place. I don't want to waste time tomorrow, just to come in time and to have the vaccine, because I am confident in this vaccine, 100%. I registered only 3 days ago. I received this message this morning to come and have the vaccine. It is very well organization.
I took the COVID-19 and I suffered a lot. So I heard that after a few months you can take it once more. So that's why I am keen to have the vaccine. That's why.
And
I'm quite old. I'm not young.
How old are you?
Huh?
How old are you?
Oh no, I won't tell you. No, that's a secret for women.
People 65 years old and above or those with chronic disease can apply. Even patients who got infected with COVID-19 can apply for a vaccine, but only 3 months after their recovery. According to the Egyptian Prime Minister's office, more than 250,000 people applied during the first 2 weeks of registration. Most of them are getting China's Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine. The government says it's expecting 4 million doses by the end of the month out of 8.6 million jabs from AstraZeneca.
And from the reporter in Cairo, Egypt, we will now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the stories. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back, and now we look at the rest of the stories. Now, drivers and commuters who use the Tabakot Road as they transit to other areas of the country have complained about the road under construction. According to them, the section of the Tabakot Road that is under construction disturbs their daily activities. Binta Fati has more details of that in this report.
The country's national development strategy acknowledged the importance of transport to the development of the country. Nonetheless, the issue of transport, which includes the construction of good roads to serve as a connection to vital areas, has always been a challenge. Seiduba, the chef de garage of the Coastal Road Garage, said the construction of the section of the Tabokoto Road troubles their daily activities.
We are faced with a very big difficulty here because since the commencement of the construction of this road, they said it will take about a month, but it has been more than a month now. This has affected our work. We no longer getting the profit that we should be getting.
Samba Sise, a driver, also expressed dissatisfaction over the situation of the roads.
Between Tabokoto to Costa Road, sometimes even if you are not driving, going there is a big problem because of the barriers here. It's been a long time now, and it is difficult for us because of these difficulties. Even vehicles that should go to Serakunda will tell you that they are stopping at Tabokoto, and that will not favor the customers.
Sri John, a commuter, said they suffer daily because of the conditions of the route, which she said often gives drivers opportunity to triple fares.
I am pleading with the government to help the people of Costa Road. We don't have road, nor do we have a garage, and we should have a garage where vehicles will stop.
Like most van drivers, taxi drivers also face similar problems. Sanadamfa, the leader of the Tabokoto taxi garage, said since the opening of the 5-5 garage over 20 years ago, their situation has never been better.
The water flows like a river. There are always broken pipes. The drivers here are always repairing their vehicles. The roads are just bad.
Due to the increase in the number of vehicles in the country, the demand for the construction of quality road and the maintenance of the existing ones is a necessity to ensure social and economic growth. Reporting for iAfrica TV News, I am Binta Fati.
And from the report there by Binta Fati, now a Nigerian engineer is using waste plastic bottles to build houses as part of efforts to mitigate the country's housing deficit crisis. The new innovation is also creating job opportunities for young people in the West African country. Here are more details of that in this report.
From this to this, it's a remarkable innovation and a clear demonstration of how one of the most troubling waste materials in the environment could be recycled to solve Nigeria's housing deficit crisis. It's the very first eco-friendly all-plastic house in Nigeria. The primary material, discarded PET plastic bottles, which litter everywhere in the country. The bottles are packed with sand, arranged on top of one another, and tied with strings before they are bound together with mud. The man behind the innovation says it is earthquake-proof and can adapt to any climate.
It's a very good solution, really, for a lot of people, the low and medium income people. It doesn't biodegrade, it doesn't change, it doesn't do anything. So at least you are sure this one you come back 250 years later, you will find it as it is. And concrete blocks will not last that long. If this is a cement block building, when you enter it, you start sweating, you run outside again. Because it's too hot, it's like an oven. You need AC or this. Here, maximum you need a ceiling fan. You don't even need it. Because the walls are thick and the sand is a poor conductor of heat. So the heat remains outside. On the other way, in the cold season, the inside remains warm when it's very, very cold outside.
Ahmed says it took 17,000 PET bottles to put up the structure. And so far, he and his group of experienced technicians have trained about 56 youths to become PET bottle masons.
We get some of these street boys and pay them, ask them to bring us the bottles. So we pay them per dozen. And they found it even is better for them than the begging they are doing on the street and this. And we've trained some of them. So we've trained them to be able to read a small map, a small sketch, and know how to measure some distances on the sketch and translate it to reality on the ground. And some of them have become our best trainers.
Nigeria has a huge plastic waste challenge, generating at least 2.5 million tons of it annually. Most of the plastic waste is discarded PET bottles, which often flood the streets when it rains. Ahmed believes the plastic house innovation could help address the problem and increase interest in plastic recycling.
We have removed a certain quantity of those bottles from the waste dump, eventually preventing it from getting into the ocean, where they break down to pieces and are eaten by aquatic animals, mostly fishes. And we also catch these fish and they come on our table. So it's a sort of, it enters the food chain, which is very, very dangerous.
With the cost of building materials on a continuous rise in Nigeria, the plastic house is certainly another option to consider. But beyond being an option, it's also a solution to one of the environmental crises the world is currently contending with.
And from that inspiring report from Nigeria, we finally bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, you can log on our website on africa.tv. But for now, though, many thanks for the privilege of your company. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and bye for now.
Gambia may be the smallest country in Africa, but it will host the second largest gathering of world leaders in 2022. To successfully host the OIC Summit and put the Gambia on the global stage, the government of the Gambia set up OIC Gambia to mobilize resources for the implementation of key development